Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video, guys. Glad to have you here. Sit back, relax. We're going to review some champions. As a matter of fact, we're going to review every single Void Epic inside the game. Who's good, who's trash, who needs a buff, who needs a nerf. I don't think I'll include anybody in that category because they've been rather heavy-handed with nerfing epics and not buffing them. So I hope that they, change their tune moving forward here at the end of 2021 and into 2022. So again, Void Epics. We never talk about Void Epics here on the channel. I feel like all of these kind of champion review videos that we put out there, I end up saying, you know what? We're going to review everybody except for the Voids because we'll come back to them later. So expect a Void Legendary video kind of follow-up reviewing all the Void Legendaries as well. Maybe later on this week, maybe next week. So anyway, jumping into the Banner Lords. We're here anyway. Let's start with the Banner Lords. Actually, how you guys doing? Just check in with you. Like a little mental check-in. Are you guys doing well?
Why does everything always have to be so complicated? Can we just do something normal?
Hopefully you are. I'm having a great kind of autumn season. My fall is my favorite time of year, especially here in New England where I live. You can see like the colors changing and, you know, it's so cliche and stupid, but it does feel nice. The temperature changing as well. I'm one of those freaks who prefers a little bit colder weather. That way I can kind of bundle up at night. Is that really pathetic? Either way, yeah, I like the cold. I like the cold. So I'm really excited right now. I went to see a Queen tribute band this last weekend. Had a blast, met up with some old friends there, and shout out to I think Mark Martel is the lead singer, and God, that was really an amazing show. A tribute band. I'm not a big tribute band guy, but it was like watching Queen, and I've seen Queen. So anyway, going into it here. Sorry for the preamble, guys. So we have Rowan. Rowan, they just can't stop buffing Rowan, and you know, for good reason, because she's not that, or she wasn't that good. But I think this last buff, guys, I think her kit is starting to actually make a little bit of sense here. She has a decent HP, low on the defense, and very high on the speed at 108. She has heal reduction on her A1. On her A2, she has a 3-time hitter with a stun chance, 60% chance, not bad. And then we have on the A3, a 4-time hitter, each one with the big version of poisons. Now this is on a 3-turn cooldown, so she's a poison layer, she's a damage dealer, she's bringing heal reduction and stun. I still think that, I don't know, she needs a little bit something. Am I being too greedy here? But either way, Rowan, I would say, is now an average epic Void champion, whereas she was below average, maybe even slightly above average, depending on where you are in the game, and that really goes for any of these champions, right? Azur, I think he needs a buff. I think he's underwhelming, especially for a Void epic champion. A 2-time hitter on his A1, ally protect on the A2, on a 4-turn cooldown, and then on a 3-turn cooldown, attack one enemy with an extra hit, stealing turn meter, and stun. It's not awful, but it's certainly not what we're expecting out of an ally protect champion. And the shield, by the way, is on this champion. So that's all we're getting, an ally protect on a 4-turn cooldown. He's been power crept. I think Azur needs a buff. Not a trash champion, but he needs help. He needs help. He's power crept, man.
Just gonna stand there and watch me burn. It looks fine to me.
Warcaster, another guy who I used to be higher on than I am right now, but he's still an above average champion. He's worth building for progression, or if you want a block damage kind of unkillable team, there's some unkillable Warcaster teams. I'll link Deadwood Jedi's YouTube channel, or not YouTube, sure, why not, and his website if you want to explore different clan boss teams using Warcaster. The good news is he has a ton of HP, he has a ton of speed, he's 106 speed, really good for faction wars as well because of that block damage and block buffs debuff. So overall, I would say he's an above average champion Warcaster. However, he's not as good as he was maybe when he was introduced to the game, right? So a little power creep there, but still a serviceable champion, certainly for faction wars and progression. Ursula the Mourner is S tier. She's an everybody build this champion type of champion, right? On her A1, she has turn meter depletion. On the A2, an AoE decrease attack and increase attack on all allies. That's on a 3-turn cooldown. Granted, you need about 3,000 books to get it, but still, she's worth it because she has one of the best revivals in the game, bar none, including legendary champions. We're reviving everybody on a 5-turn with increased defense, strengthen 75% HP and turn meters by half. Very good champion. Speed in Doom Tower battles, great for endgame content, great for an endgame aura lead for you guys as well. High Elves, there's only 2. There's Battle Sage and Exemplar. Exemplar, let's start with the bad, then we'll go to the good. Exemplar is a trash epic Void champion. I would stay far, far away from upgrading her, guys. She's an attack-based champion. You might be thrown off by her attack. It's a shame that Plarium does not give us the under-the-hood numbers, but luckily for you guys, Ayumi Love has you covered, that all the damage multipliers, even Hell Hades on his website has all of the damage multipliers, so make sure you check before building a nuker, especially a single target damage dealer like Exemplar. She's just not that great. 3 times at random with a weaken debuff, okay. Attack 1 enemy with a freeze and block active skills, not enough. She's very slow too. She doesn't have a lot of defense either. Not a great champion. Battle Sage, however, if you're looking for an answer to Torment, if you're looking for an answer to Hegemon in the arena, you don't have Skytouch Shaman, you don't have Cardio, a champion like that, consider Battle Sage because of this A2 on a 3-turn cooldown. We have increased attack on all allies, then removes all debuffs from all allies, and that buff cannot be removed, increased attack. It's nice to have her as an increased attack champion on your team. She also has a revive on death on a target ally for 3 turns, and that's on a 4-turn cooldown. So the rest of her kit is whatever, but you build her really fast for the arena. You come in with this A2, and you put her in immunity gear. So she's not going to be CC'd by the Torments, by the Hegemons, and then you cleanse, you know, whoever is CC'd on your team, and then you're right back to the start. So not a bad option, but she's more of a niche champion than anything else. Sacred Order. I'm actually, as I go through these champions, I'm going to recommend like who I would suggest considers upgrading these champions. So Cardinal, I would max out Cardinal, excuse me, if you're trying to have some funky arena fun, right? She has one of the most unique and best revivals in the game, revives all dead allies, heals them by 25% on a 5-turn cooldown, and then boosts their turn meters to max, meaning they're always going to go next. So you can have some real fun in the arena with her. The rest of her kit is kind of underwhelming. Ursula is better for like all-around utility, but if you're looking to have some fun in the arena, try out Cardinal. Lightsworn, I personally think he has been power crept quite a bit. I used to be higher on him than I am right now. I just gotta be real with you guys. On his A1, he has a 3-time hitter, which is nice. He has a lot of defense, which is the good part of his kit again. But he has a single target decreased attack and decreased speed, good for bosses on his A2, and he has increased defense and revive on death. That's on a 4-turn cooldown though. So again, is his kit awful? Certainly not. He's definitely average to above average, but I remember when I started 2+ years ago, I remember everybody was talking about Lightsworn. They were giving them away on like one of those creator codes if you download or whatever. By the way, if you want to use mine, you can get a free Shinaru on a new account, so I'll include it for you guys. I don't get anything out of that, by the way, but I can hook you up with a new Shinaru.
Congratulations. You got yourself a job.
Inquisitor Shamil, though, he is good for anybody who's looking for a really unique damage dealer. He also has this, each critical hit feels this champion's turn meter by 7.5%. Whenever an ally receives a fear or true fear from an enemy, it will instantly remove that debuff and fill that turn meter of the ally, excuse me.
What language is this?
Learn how to speak if you're going to do YouTube, bro, by 15%. So really good damage dealer against a team that has fear or true fear. I mentioned this in a recent video, but I mean, you're going against a Yoshi team in the arena, you could sub him in knowing that they're going to open up with that true fear debuff. So there's some options there, but even that aside, he can deal a ton of damage on his A2 here, and even his A1 has good multipliers. He's a really good champion, but not S tier. So if you need him for those reasons, he's good to have fun with, but I would not say he's a must upgrade. And the barometer that I'm using here is my free-to-play account, right? Would I upgrade these champions on my free-to-play account? And the answer would be, sadly, no on Inquisitor Shamil. Not to say he's a trash champion, but I'm working on progression, and he's not going to help me progress as much as a support champion or other champions that we talk about. Heck, even a champion like Lightsworn, you know, on my free-to-play account. But every account is different. That's why I can't tell you or anybody. I can't say a blanket statement. Everybody should upgrade this champion, unless we're talking about like Krisk, you know?
Oh, by the way.
I am a turtle.
Who's that cockroach on the screen?
Godseeker Neri, though, she's close. She's really, really good. Really one of the better support champions or defense-based champions they've added this year. She has a heal on the A1, ally with lowest HP. She has an AoE with a heal on a 3-turn cooldown here, and increase the duration of buffs, decrease the duration of buffs on enemies. It's a really, really good skill, the Quest for Meaning, kind of like Sandlash Survivor type skill, only a little bit more, right? And then she has a really good revival, revives a dead ally, fills fills a turn meter by 50% and then resets the cooldown of all of their skills. That's really unique. Single target, one of the better single target revivals in all epics and really in the game because of that uniqueness. And then she has Guardian Angel, increases the amount of healing all allies receive, not just from Godseeker, so that's really cool. Pairs well with like a Vrask, Soul of the Drakes, a passive healer on the same team, Rector Draft, right? So she can be your reviver, and then quasi-healer as well. And then you put another healer, a passive healer, on the same team. Really good synergy because of this Guardian Angel. And then if an ally is about to be killed, it preempts that hit with a Revive on Death. That's on a 4-turn cooldown. So that's pretty cool as well. She has that built-in kind of fail-safe method for a revival. So really, really cool champion. Very good, very good. She is, to me, she's close to S tier for an epic champion. Barbarians, well, that's a different story. We have Harken Greatblade. She's kind of trash. She does have this A3 that has a debuff spread. She does have a very, very hard-hitting A1 as well. But that's about it, man. And that's not enough to get me to upgrade that champion. She's the buff. Sawai Firstborn did receive a buff, but she needs another buff. They didn't buff her enough. She has an AoE decrease attack on a 3-turn cooldown, which is nice. Then she has a decently hard-hitting A3 here, attacking one enemy with Weaken. For me, it's not enough to justify building that champion, so I'm not a fan. Skytouch Shaman is really good, even though she has a very unique and kind of off-putting kit on first glance, right? Were you guys with me? Anybody look at Skytouch Shaman and think, dude, this champion is weird? I don't know if I understand her, and she might be trash. That was my first reaction when we were kind of speculating before she was even added to the game. An AoE on her A1 with a heal or turn meter, depending on, you know, champion HP. And then we have a similar to Battle Sage, right? Removing all buffs from all allies, or debuffs from all allies, and then places block debuffs and a revive on death, all on one ability. It's actually more similar to Cardial, but Cardial's is on a 3-turn cooldown, and the revive on death cannot be removed, as opposed to Immortal Skies, which is a weaker version of Cardial's A2. However, it's still a tremendously good ability overall, right? I use Skytouch Shaman because I don't have Cardial in the arena, so I use her in that role we talked about with Battle Sage. Also, the Bloodstained Ritual, basically you put her in immunity gear that's going to stop her from putting decreased speed and fear on herself at the start of every turn. That's a big no-no, and this makes one of, you want to build her with a lot of HP, and she's healing by half of the amount she's damaging herself, which is predicated on her max HP at the start of every single turn. So a really, really good healer, really one of the best healers in the game in terms of sheer raw heals. We're talking her, we're talking Vrask, we're talking Rector Draft, champions like that, Soul the Drakes. Ogrin, we have 3, towering, actually 4. Maneater, well, you guys know Maneater, right? He's the king of unkillable because of the ancient blood. You know, so this ability is known, renowned for its clan boss prowess. However, the A2, Siphon, can steal full turn meter from the enemy. It's a really great ability also in its own right. In the A1, we have decreased attack on every single enemy, provided the attack is critical. So we want to build him with 100% crit rate as well. If we're using him in areas outside of clan boss, even in clan boss on unkillable teams, you're better off optimizing your damage on your Maneaters to get extra damage. Obviously, you only have 50 turns. Oftentimes. Prundar, actually a pretty fun and pretty good champion. High base defense. He's a defense-based champion. He's all about counterattack. Look at this. Let's start with his passive, right? Receives 20% less damage from enemies under provoke. Cool. He has a provoke on his A2. He has an AoE provoke 75% and increased defense on himself. 3-turn cooldown. I wish that was 100%, but, you know, it is what it is. But look at this passive. 25% chance can be booked up to 50% chance of counterattacking whenever an enemy under provoke debuff attacks either this champion or an ally. So as long as somebody's under provoke on the enemy team and they attack, he can counterattack. When he's counterattacking, he'll usually play, or when he's attacking on his A1, excuse me, he'll place a decreased speed. But when he's counterattacking, he'll place a stun. So he has good CC on the provoke and going into the stun. He also has a strengthen and continuous heal on a 4-turn cooldown on all allies. The big version of strengthen, big version of continuous heal. A underrated support champion out there. Uragrim is still really good, but that nerf was dirty, dirty, dirty. They changed Bizarre Vapors, placing 2 poisons on all enemies and continuous heals on allies for 2 turns. They changed it from a 3 to a 4-turn cooldown when booked. That really hurt. They also changed the A1 from a 3-time hitter to a 2-time hitter. That hurt as well, but still a very, very good champion. Nonetheless, I would still call him an S tier champion. It just really, really hurts after, you know, what they did to him. That sucks. They just released him and then they nerfed him pretty hard. Still kind of bitter about that. Can you guys tell?
Say thank you.
For what? You know, for letting you have it.
All right. Broadmaw Lizardmen is a lot better after his buff. So he has a freeze on his A1, not a bad chance either, 45% chance of landing that freeze. On his A2, increased crit rate and increased speed and a turn meter fill. So they gave this gift ability a big buff. It used to be just crit rate. Now at least you get the weak version of increased speed and turn meter fill on a 3-turn cooldown, and he's reviving 2 random allies with a block damage on a 4-turn cooldown. It's a pretty powerful revival as well. He's pretty fast too at 104 base speed. A good reviver. Skathix is also another good Void Epic champion. A lot of good Void Epics guys out there, right? That's why now I'm becoming more and more inclined when they release a fragment or fusion rather to just take a look at the epics and think to myself, maybe I'll just go with the epics this time, right? That's what I did in the last fusion. I don't regret it. Decreased speed on the A1, love to see that. I love leech or decreased speed on A1s in general. An AoE chance at stealing random buffs, okay, not bad on an A2. On the A3 though, on a 4-turn cooldown where we have a cleanse, we have block debuffs and a shield all for 3 turns. Not bad at all, right? So a decent shield, block debuffs for 2 turns, and a cleanse. That ability is really, really good. And we have block damage on this champion for 1 turn whenever his HP drops below 30%. So again, you could do a lot worse from a support champion as resist as well on the aura. All right, Skinwalkers, guys. There's only one. It's Basher. Basher's a really good champion. First off, the thing about Basher is he can put out some serious damage, so it's nice to have him as an attack and kind of a CC role. Kind of like the poor man's Warlord, maybe. He attacks all enemies, increases the cooldown of all of the target skills by 2 turns. So you're getting a +2 turns on all cooldowns on a 3-turn cooldown, a very good ability. And then on his Cause Sphere, we have block buffs on a 4-turn cooldown. It is 4 times at random. I wish this was an AoE attack. I don't think that would make him too strong because it is on a 4-turn cooldown, but an AoE block buffs and an increased cooldown of all target skills would be really, really nice instead of a 4-time at random. I hate that, but overall, he's still a good champion who can put out a surprisingly decent amount of damage on top of his CC abilities. So only 2 in Skinwalkers. Moving right along to Orcs, guys. We have Seer, insane damage dealer. What else do you need to know about Seer, guys? Have you seen Karma Burn? If you haven't, you know, Google or YouTube search Seer, because she's probably my most used champion that I have, because I rely so heavily on Karma Burn. It scales based on enemy max HP according to the number of buffs on your team and the enemy team. So she's removing buffs from the enemy team and your team. So she's kind of like a nuke, like a real nuclear weapon going off. Like everything is dying, even your team maybe, because all their buffs are going to be stripped away. But she does millions of damage per unit on level 25 dungeons with that ability. She's very, very good. Tuak the Wanderer is actually, he was an Amazon Prime free champion if you had Amazon Prime, along with Vala, Whisper, and Ultimate Galek about 2 years ago now. So Tuak was actually really good, right? I mean, for a damage dealer, he's a damage dealer. He's not a must build for everybody, but if you're looking for a compelling damage dealer who's pretty reliable with a good aura, attacking all battles by 22%, decent aura, right? You can do a lot worse than Tuak the Wanderer. He also has decreased speed, I believe. Yeah, so an AoE decreased speed at 100% land, also has increased speed on himself with a heal on himself, and then attack 1 enemy with a steal of turn meter and a stun, stealing 100% turn meter if the champion has less than 50% HP. So on a 4-turn cooldown, it's a good ability. It hits pretty hard as well, and we have decreased damage taken on his passive. So overall, I think he's an underrated Void Epic champion. He's not S tier, but you can build him if you're looking for a nuker who you don't have to worry about affinity, right? Same thing with all of these Void damage dealers or debuffers in general. You don't have to worry about bad affinity matchups, their debuffs not landing, or their critical hits not landing. Tolf the Maimed is a crappy champion. He's just the most niche champion ever created in this game.
That all you got? That's it? I'm still here.
He has an underwhelming A1, an underwhelming A2. Even this ability, you read it, it sounds like it could be cool, but the attack cannot be critical. It's dealing pure damage, which is nice, but it's not that much damage from what I've seen. I've not built him. But really, it's all about Armor Cracker. Decreases the value of all enemies' shield buffs by 50% at the start of every turn. Then it increases his champion's max HP by the same amount. So again, very, very niche. I guess if you were going against like a Mountain King, not like a Krisk team, I guess, double shielded in the arena, it might be worth considering with a Brogni or something. But even in that situation, I'm still probably not using him. So I'd rather a Madame Serris just take the shields off, right? So Tulta Main, I think he's one of the worst champions really added, to be honest with you guys, this year. Demon Spawn. We have 3. Interruption, 1 sec. You need what?
I ate my job.
You ate all your strawberries?
I ate 1, 2, and now I'm gonna eat 3.
Okay, go eat them all up. I'm almost done, okay? I love you.
I'm sure we're taller another dimension.
Sorry, guys, had a little interruption. The little kiddo was still awake here at 9:30 at night, recording this the night before. All right, Paige is a very good champion. She has a 2-time hitter with decreased attack on the A1. Actually, decreased attack on all enemies on the A1. Very, very noteworthy, a la Man-Eater, who we just reviewed. Very, very good A1. On the A2, an AoE decreased accuracy, excuse me, which is a kind of a hard-to-find ability. This does scale off of defense and attack, which is a little bit awkward. But her A3 is solely based on defense, and Appropriate is one of the harder-hitting defensive single-target abilities in the game on a 3-turn cooldown. So Paige, definitely a really good damage dealer, really good for decreased attack and decreased accuracy. A big fan of that champion. Umbral Enchantress, also a big fan of her. Her A1 scales depending on how much HP she has left. She's going to be running on very low HP a lot, right? Her A2 block buffs for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. That is a really good ability, but it's overshadowed by her Undying Evil A3, which is placing a provoke for 2 turns. You can lock out all enemies for 2 turns. The bad news is you're also locking her out for 5 turns. So that makes her A2 kind of moot, at least in the arena or PvP situations. However, in a longer battle, that can still be useful in the A2. Overall, though, very, very fun for the arena. I mean, this ability can really change things up for the arena. Some people just build her with very high accuracy and just a ton of speed, and that's it. They don't care about any other stat. They're not looking for damage, although she puts out good damage to AoE attacks, right? But just having her go first in the arena, and that's it. You lock out the team, and you're pretty much good. You know, provoke for 2 turns, pretty incredible. Skimfosa Consumed, very cool champion, very fun champion, but not overpowered. Not a high recommendation to build. He has a decreased speed on his A1. An AoE decreased attack on his A2, not bad. After attacking, he'll transfer debuffs from all allies to this champion, to himself. So he's transferring all debuffs to himself except for the CC debuffs. Then on his A3, nice synergy here, it will transfer all debuffs from him to a target enemy, then attacks the target and steals their turn meter if the attack is critical. Now that I read it back, it's actually a really cool kit, right? I think he's above average, but I have not seen his damage. I have not seen his multipliers, but I think this is a pretty cool way to cleanse your team, right? He sucks up all the buffs. The bummer is that he's not sucking up all these really, really nasty buffs, right? And then he puts them on an enemy, and then he steals their turn meter. It's pretty cool. Maybe I should build him. I haven't really seen him in action. What about you guys? Has anybody built Skimfos the Consumed? Honestly, after on every champion that I've spoke about in this video so far, he's the only guy that I'm really not 100% sure of. I've not watched somebody use him, and I just want to be, upfront with you guys and honest, right? When I don't know a ton about a champion. Undead Horde, believe it or not, there's no void epics unless I'm wrong here. No, I'm not wrong. No void epics in Undead Horde. So there we go. Dark Elves. We have 3. Lua, who's very good. She's an AoE on the A2 times 3. A 3-time AoE on the A2. On the A1, we deal 50% of that damage to all enemies. I almost said AoE on the A1. It's not an AoE. It's a single target, and then the rest of the damage, or half the damage, gets spread around onto all the other enemies. But Lucky Shot is a great ability as well. It's decreasing turn meter, is ignoring shield and block damage buffs. So a very, very good ability here, obviously, in Lucky Shot on a 4-turn cooldown. And then the 3-time hitter, Hail of Arrows. So a good damage dealer as well. Sylar is the queen, man. She's really good. One of those champions that really everybody I would recommend building. On the A1 and AoE, on the A2 and AoE decrease accuracy. Can put her in a stun set and have ultimate CC everywhere. And then on the A3, we have decreased speed and decreased turn meter by 40%. Very good ability as well. And lead in the legs, it's on a 4-turn 3-turn cooldown. She's dealing a lot of damage. She's doing great crowd control, decreased speed and decreased turn meter, and then just consistent AoEs, just really absolutely plummeting the enemy team. Madame Sarah's one of the best champions in the game. Congratulations if you just got her from the previous event. What is that? 30 guaranteed champion, Madame Sarah's. She was a Halloween champion added to the game in 2019, so 2 years old now. She's really good. She has Fear on her A1. She has a stealing buffs on her A2. Plays a block debuffs on all allies if any buff is stolen for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Thank you very much. And then True Fear for 1 turn on enemies who have buffs stolen. I mean, every time I reread this ability, I know her kit, but I always think about Midnight Ritual, right? Remove all buffs, decrease attack, decrease defense, right? But you always forget how good Trick or Treats is, not just from stealing the buffs, but from the block debuffs and True Fear as well. She also has a shield on herself at the start of every turn. When attacking under shield, she has a chance of placing fear. She's just so incredibly good. Very, very good champion in Madame Ceres. Knights Revenant, guys, we have Faceless. I think Faceless has been a little bit power crept, right? With every single target damage dealer, boring single target damage dealer, Faceless becomes a little bit more underwhelming. That being said, for a while, I was actually really high on Faceless. I have him built. I use Faceless in Faction Wars. But I think his utility outside of Faction Wars is starting to wane a bit, if I'm really honest with you guys. Attack one enemy, attack a single target on every ability, but it deals a lot of damage, especially the Ice Bolt, which will ignore shield and block damage buffs, as well as defense. So it's a hard-hitting 3-turn cooldown ability here on the A3, can kill almost any target in PvP, provided they have debuffs on them in one shot, which is nice. But there's a lot of champions that do that. I would not build Faceless unless I needed help in Faction Wars for damage. But I wouldn't build him on my free-to-play account. Sorry, guys. Skull Crown. AoE on the A1, AoE on the A2, nasty, ridiculously annoying, unkillable passive for the arena, and a good arena aura speed in all battles. She's great for the arena. It can really, really just annoy people with that unkillable, and 2 AoE attacks. She's also great in other areas of the game. She only has AoE in her kit, right? An AoE potential extra hit as well on the A1, and then an AoE with a weaken on the A2 on a 3-turn cooldown. A2 dealing more damage, of course, but either way, put her in a stun set. I love Skull Crown in a stun set. It's a really reliable way to get through Faction Wars. I use Skull Crown and Sinesha both in stun sets to get by Faction Wars, Knights Revenant. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of, who did I have? Really, I didn't have a lot of, I don't think I had any legendaries when I beat Knights Revenant Stage 21 in Faction Wars. I might have had one, I don't know. Maybe I had a Whirlwind. Maybe it was right after Battle Pass, but I didn't have a lot at the time. And I relied so heavily on that tandem, right? On, where is she? Sinesha and Skull Crown. All right, Golden Reaper. Underrated speed specialist. Think Apothecary, but an epic version, a void epic version. She's not a bad champion. On her A1, she has a chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random ally skill by 1 turn. Okay. On her A2, an AoE would decrease attack and decrease the turn meter of each target by 20% if they're not under that decreased attack. So not a bad ability. I wish it was on a 3-turn cooldown though. If that was on a 3-turn cooldown, I would be so much higher in Golden Reaper. It is worth noting that she's one of the fastest epics in the game with a 111 speed as well, which we want to have speed on our speed boosters. On her A3, Alacrity, a very good ability. Increased speed for 2 turns and fills the turn meter by 20%. That's better than Apothecary's A2, and it should be. She's a void epic champion, right? So Golden Reaper, a very good champion. She doesn't have that soothing ability on the A2, so she's minus the heals, but with the decreased attack. So not a bad champion, but I don't know. I feel like I really just wish this was a 3-turn cooldown. Anyway, Whisper. I think the Whisper is a little bit underwhelming. I would not, by the way, I would build Golden Reaper if you don't have Apothecary or if you don't have High Katoon or another speed booster on your team. Whisper. I would not advise people build Whisper. She's a fun champion to have fun with. She was a free Amazon Prime champion, as we discussed earlier, and she can deal a lot of damage. She really can. For a single target damage dealer, she has this ability. Grants an extra turn if the target is under decreased defense and weakened. So it's really important to have, you know, a decreased defense and weakened champion on your team, or two of them on your team. A weakened placer and a decreased defense placer. If you're lucky enough to have like a Venus or a Draco morph, then sure, run them, or a Lydia, sure, run them on the same team. But granting that extra turn is really important. She has this passive too. She has a 10% chance of granting extra turn whenever she lands a critical hit. So you can get some really nice kind of snowball effects. She's a very fun champion to play, but I would not say she's just a damage dealer, right? A decent damage dealer for your team. If you're looking for one, go ahead and invest in Whisper. Otherwise, I would probably pass. Dwarves. Quite a few here, so let's move through them. Rune Keeper Dazdurk is a really good champion. First of all, look at his speed, 105, defense solid, HP really solid. Very, very solid base stats on this champion. We have a leech on the A1. I already said that I love that. That's a 45% chance at landing. You can pick up Sniper. You got a 50% chance leech on the A1. On the A2, increase attack on all allies, return cooldown, and turn meter fill by 25%. Solid ability. And then the A3, we have a cleanse. We have a heal based on his max HP. He has a lot of HP, right? It's great combo. And then continuous heal for 2 turns on allies that have a debuff removed. This is on a 4-turn cooldown. You could do a lot worse there. Attack in all battles. Kind of a weird aura to have on such a heavy support champion.
Do we have a problem?
But whatever, we'll take it. So I think that he is a really solid option, kind of like a Skathix type ability on his A3. Next up is going to be Beardall Fellhammer. He's, I think he's more of a Fire Knight specialist. If you're struggling with Fire Knight progression, I would invest in Beardall. Otherwise, I'd probably pass. Has heal reduction on his A1. On his A2, he does have decreased defense and a shield. Shield on himself, right? Yeah. So a self shield on a 3-turn cooldown the last 3 turns. Okay, cool. But he has a counterattack on himself at the start of each round. So he's placing counterattack and at the start and the end of his turn, essentially, that leads him going into more 2-time hitters on his A1, which makes him a specialist at chipping away at that shield. Otherwise, I would not invest at this point. Gala Longbraids, she is a really fun damage dealer. She can help you out in faction wars. Dwarf faction crypt is pretty challenging, so she can be a good damage dealer there. She is squishy though, 661 on the defense, but she's really fun for the arena because this sheer swagger ability, attacking one enemy 3 times, each hit ignores 25% of target's defense. Definitely want Savage Gear on her and Helm Smasher Mastery as well, but she can kill somebody and then grant an extra turn if this champion has full HP. So as long as she's going, you know, before the enemy team, as long as she has that full HP, she will kill somebody with sheer swagger and go into her A2, which is attacking one enemy, ignoring 50% of the target's defense when attacking under a shield buff. So, you know, put somebody in a shield set on your team. She also has a shield on her A1, but in the arena, that's not going to help you out a lot. So have somebody in a shield set, put like Stag Knight or somebody with high HP in a shield set, the debuffer, have them go right before her. She goes and she kills somebody, and then she kills somebody again on her A2. That's the best case scenario. She does have good multipliers. Ragnar Goldgleam, he has a leech on his A1, 60% chance, not bad. He has an HP sacrifice. Fill its turn meter by 75% and place a shield buff on this champion for equal to 20% of their max HP for 3 turns. Oh my god. Okay. That's kind of a weird ability, right? Ragnar Goldgleam is a champion that I looked at his kit and I was just very underwhelmed. I don't know. He's an HP champion with not a lot of HP, not a lot of defense either, so he's kind of squishy. So he better be really good, right? On his A3, increase attack on himself, then attacks one enemy with a weaken. Also plays decreased defense on that enemy before attacking. So we get decreased defense and a weaken, put him with a Whisper against a boss, right? On a 4-turn cooldown. But on the passive, we have reducing the Gleam of Avarice, his A3, each time he loses 15% HP. So, not bad. I'm going to say he's an average champion. An average. And yeah, I guess it's pretty much what the ratings say about him. But I'm not super up to date on Ragnar Goldgleam. I have not built him. I have not tried him out. So take my, his kit to me seems meh. kind of meh, right? Am I wrong? Let me know. Demphia, however, is one of the better champions. She was just released part of this most recent fusion, or I should say 2 fusions ago, I guess, considering the Halloween fusion. She needs 1,000,000 books. Hate that about her. But she has increased the duration of all buffs on by 1 turn, then decreases the duration. Let me start over here. Increase the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. Decrease the duration of all ally debuffs by 1 turn. And then also heals in a further heal depending on how many debuffs were removed. But really her A3. We get block damage and a continuous heal on all allies on a 3-turn cooldown. She's another unkillable champion for unkillable comps for clan boss. And you can also use her as just a support champion and a healer anywhere in the game. She's a very good champion, very good addition to the game. All right, we only have 1 faction left, guys, and it's Shadowkin. So there's 3. Aboro is hard to kill. She's hard to erase, and she's a more compelling single target damage dealer than Whisper. A more recent addition as well. She has decreased defense. The big version on her A1 will attack all enemies instead if the target is under 4 or more debuffs. Okay. On her A1. On her A2, she has a 2-time hitter. Second hit has a chance at transferring debuffs from this champion to the target. First hit will be stealing buffs from the target if she's under a Veil or Perfect Veil. On the A3, she's placing that Perfect Veil on herself, as well as increased crit rate, increased crit damage, and attacking an enemy. Ninja Arts, very good ability, good multipliers on it. And then the passive, Revive on Death. This is what makes her difficult to kill, right? Revive on Death for 3 turns whenever they receive a Perfect Veil or a Veil, which she's doing on the 3-turn cooldown on her A3. Very cool champion, good multipliers, decent speed, good addition to the game. I would build her. That being said, I probably wouldn't build her on my free-to-play account because I'm more interested in AoE attackers. But if you need help in Shadowkin Faction Wars, I would definitely build her as a damage dealer. One that's you're not gonna have a lot of trouble keeping alive, right? Jembo the Dishonored, I think everybody should build them personally. I did a guide on him a week or 2 ago now. One of the best arena nukers in the game. You don't have to worry about unkillable, you know, those skull crowns that we talked about, right? Or swift parry sets on those duchesses and whoever else in the arena. As long as he's under, he's an immune to decreased attack as well. As long as he's under increased attack, he'll ignore unkillable. And then he has Heartless Blitz, which does a ton of damage, but you open up with this A3 Sword Trance, increased crit rate, increased crit damage, grant an extra turn, you go into that hard-hitting A2, and he has a very hard-hitting A1 as well. Very good champion. And then Taya is the last champion we'll talk about. Nobody has her in the game right now, but she seems very good. She's a Doom Tower Secret Room champion. Decreased accuracy on the A1, a 3-time hitter each shot with a poison, a la where we started this video in Rowan. And then on the A3, well, she has a 4-time hitter though. On the A3 though, we have an instantly activating poisons and HP burn debuffs on the target. Very good instant activation of both poison and HP burn on that A3. Can't wait to get her and try her out inside the game. You'll have a lot of fun with her. She's going to be a really good champion. I'm not sure as good as Dark Kale, but certainly very, very good nonetheless. All right, guys, that concludes this video. We talked about every single Void Epic in the game. Let me know who you agree with, who you disagree with my opinion on these champions. I hope you found this video helpful. Stay tuned again for the Legendary version where we talk about all the Void Legendaries, the best of the best, or so it should be, right, in theory, in the game. Thank you for watching all the way till the end. I appreciate you guys, and as always, take care, guys.